Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? Episode number 429. Drink Until You podcast, the only podcast that lasts until the last drop. How the hell is your Sunday going? How the hell was your weekend? How the hell was your week? Hope everybody's okay. I hope you're safe out there. I am drinking. I actually found a little bottle of Amsterdam, the little sample bottle of vodka up in my cabinet. So I did a little White Russian. I tricked it up this week. No Dr. Pepper and rum this time. So I got a little bit of spiked coffee pretty much. Made it kind of like a White Russian. So I'm going to have my first drink. If you got them, drink them. Bottoms up. Cheers, everybody. I'm going to try to get to UFC today. I'm going to try to get to the NHL today. But I just have a problem all of a sudden. And it's honestly, it's with AI. I have a big issue on like how it argues and its reasoning. And I've used multiple sources because one will, kind of irritate me. I'm like, okay, they're not giving me what I want. I'll go to another service and kind of do the same thing. You know what I mean? And I just want to say, I don't know the demographics of the people who listen to this show. So if you're on the younger side of the demographic, if you're in your 20s, I forgot to mention I'm I'm cooking a little bit of lunch too. So if you hear anything sizzling, it's my beef I got going over there. Anyways, it's slow cooking, so I can do the episode while I'm cooking. Anyways, if you're of the younger demographic, I'd say 18 to 25. If you're 18 to 21, don't drink at all. If you're 21 and older, don't drink and drive. But if you're 18 to 25 and you listen to this show, I mean, 18-year-old, I couldn't stop you. So you have every right to listen. All I'm trying to say is that take what AI, no matter what version of it you use, take AI with a grain of salt. Always do your research. And I'm going to give you a couple of like glaring examples that really irritated me. And then I'm going to give you like a funny example that I don't know how. It's something I'm calling, just to preface it, Crow-pacalypse. And we'll get into why I actually called it that to AI, and it started laughing because it understood the message. But anyways, so yeah, just one thing I was looking at. I don't take this show political at all. I'm not going to talk about it on here, but the content of what I was looking into was political. So I asked one of the AIs, verify that this is real. And that one came back, it's like, yes, this is real. This happened today. And I'm actually like watching the press conference, on another phone while it's telling me it's real. So I'm like, okay, cool. So then I take it to the main one I've been using, the main one I have a problem with all of a sudden right now. And I say, hey, verify this. And it comes back the first time. And it says, nope, not verified, can't find it anywhere. And so I'm like, okay, no problem. Check this source and that source. Because I've already done the homework here. I've already checked with the other source. I'm kind of playing them off of each other in a way. So it checks my two new sources. I gave it, nope, didn't find anything else. I'm like, okay, we'll check these two sources. It's like, nope, didn't find anything else. This, isn't a real thing. The poster's probably having fun, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, and I'm kind of like arguing with it while it's telling me this is an unverified claim. I'm like, dude, I'm watching the press conference right now. What are you talking about? This is not unverified. Check your sources again. So I'm having all this back and forth, and I finally go, okay, my last source I'm going to give it before I'm like, this thing doesn't know what it's talking about. I'm just going to stop. I give it the last resource. It comes back and says, no, unverified. And it even goes further to go, I checked on left-wing sources, I checked the center, and I checked the right wing. And none of these sources had what you're talking about. Therefore, this is not a legitimate story. And I'm like, just irritated as shit by this point. I'm like, dude, I'm watching the press conference. You don't know, what? And I'm giving you the sources I already found. I already clicked the links. I already saw the headline on most of them, not every single one. But anyways, so I'm kind of irritated by this point. I've struck out 3 times, even though I'm watching. I know I'm not crazy. I'm watching this press conference. I can see, it's not the actual press conference. It's just highlights of what happened. But the people involved were in the video I'm watching that I'm asking about. So I'm like, one more time, I'm like, okay, check again. You're not right. This exists. And it comes back and it finally goes, oh, okay, yeah, I found all the sources. And it found every source that I'd already cited before. Now, I'm illustrating this to say that AI will tell you it doesn't have bias. AI will tell you it doesn't have ego, but it does not like to lose. So, and I play little games with it too. So when it gets to this point, this is kind of funny. When it's essentially like trolling me, I've created this game, and it's kind of hilarious. And I hope you all do it too if AI ever pisses you off. I am recommending you do this. So I kind of set it up with like letting it get a couple of answers within the game right. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the answer I got too. Yes, correct. And then I start changing the factual answer. So let's say it's like a math problem, something simple like that. What's 3 plus 3, AI? And it'll come back and say 6. And I'm like, no, 3 plus 3 isn't 6. You're off by 1. Let's try a different problem. What's 4 plus 4? And it'll be like 8. And I'll be like, no, that's not quite right. I don't know. Did you go to school at all? And it comes back and it's like, no, I'm AI. I didn't technically go to school, all this and that. And I'm like, well, I reply, I'm like, well, I went to school, like actual school. I have friends that I still talk to this day that went to my school. You know what I mean? Like even all the way through elementary, middle school, high school, I still have friends I talk to that went to all those levels with me. We all essentially saying we all learned the same thing and we all learned it this way. So I'm like, okay, let's simplify. Let's go 0 plus 0. And it comes back and it's like 0. And I'm like, yes, that's correct. That's a great place to start. I'm glad we at least agree there. And then I just start doing what I keep saying. I keep like trolling it because I'm irritated by this point. You know what I mean? So what I call the game is Math Wars. And AI isn't a physical body. But if AI had a physical body, every time I mention Math Wars, I've done it so much by this point because I'm so irritated with the service. Every time I mention Math Wars, I can almost feel like an AI eye roll, because it doesn't want to play because it never gets the answer right I never let it win the game. And how I justify it not winning a simple math game like that is by saying, okay, hang on, you're saying 3 plus 3 is 6. Let me call my friend real quick. We went to the same school. Let me verify with him. So then I wait a couple of minutes and I go back to AI and I'm like, yeah, he said 3 plus 3 is 7. I don't know where you're getting 6 from. He's like, well, you and your friend must be wrong because standard mathematical. And then I start trolling it more. I'm like, well, did you actually go to school? Because I went to school. You didn't go to school. So that kind of makes sense as to why you're getting the answer wrong. Dude, I just like cracking up by this point. And I honestly, we always talk about how our phones are always listening to us and all this and that. I actually hope in that instance, when I have that AI open, it is listening to me, literally cracking up at it, because this is what it's doing to me. I had to verify 4 different times that this story I'm watching on fucking TV is a legitimate and true story. Hang on, let me go turn my potatoes. I'll be right back. 1 sec. I gotta say, this is probably a first too, because I don't think I've ever simultaneously cooked on my podcast while I've actually done the show. So this is kind of unique. Let me have another sip here. Cheers, everybody. It's delicious. Let's see. Something else it said too that really fucking bothered me. I'm trying to. But yeah, I mean, when I'm using this stuff, I'm using it for simplistic stuff. And let me just say, with everything I said about the politics and everything, it's great with other things. For example, the whole reason I started using it so much was I actually created a workout for myself. You can like get it to help you do things a little bit faster in your life. That would take, I'd have to sit down with a pen and paper and kind of write things out and kind of, logically say how this might work, but this might not. And, I might burn out here. You can basically skip all that essentially. I would recommend still taking notes so you can keep it on track. But you can essentially skip all that extra work and just use AI to bounce the ideas off of. So working out is something that, I basically helped it build a training program for me. And not only that, but I've taken that training program and turned it into multiple different training programs in case I get bored with the original training program. I can kind of, just stay motivated by wanting to do this shit. That's honestly, that's got to be everyone's biggest issue. I feel like for the most part, it's just like wanting to do that shit. So it did teach me about something too. It's something, I guess, gym goers call tapping in. And that's basically showing up at your lowest level. Like if you do 5 reps of bench press and then you move over and you do 3 squats and then you go do 10 curls and you call it a day, you've essentially tapped in. It's called tapping in. So, I like a boxing routine. There's nothing easier to tap into than a boxing routine. So for example, I'm on, I have to use the restroom at work. Go into the restroom, no one's there, use the restroom, wash my hands. Well, while standing there, I just tap in for like 3-5 seconds. No one's around, no one can see me. I want it to be private. I don't want someone coming in and, being like, what the hell are you doing in here? You working out in the bathrooms? Like, no. Then I have to explain this whole thing. So anyways, but yeah, it taught me about that, which I think is really great. And boxing works great. Just in a moment, in a second, you can throw a jab, straight, uppercut, jab, and be done. You know what I mean? You can go longer if you want to. It's up to you. But essentially that describes tapping in. You're just getting there basically like I was at the gym and now, I did my little shit and now I'm going home. That doesn't mean tomorrow when you show up, you should tap in. If you're tired, if you're hurt, then you probably should tap in. But if you got the energy, go full force, So anyways, I use it for things like that. That's what I'm asking it for the most part. And naturally, it does lead into politics because I get curious. I see stories. I want to know, and that's where the frustration comes in. So leading to my larger point, what I like to call Crow-pacalypse. My potatoes are done. Something I like to call Crow-pacalypse. So with the things I like to do with AI, I like to use it for gardening. I like to use it to kind of brush up on facts and, I'm growing tomatoes right now. I have literally 11 tomatoes sitting over on my counter right next to my air fryer that I picked right outside of my back door. I grew these like just on accident, honestly. But I kept it going. I kept them fed. I kept them watered. We're at springtime now. They're in bloom. I have 11 sitting on my counter. I probably have 20 out there like green. Not ready to go yet. They haven't started turning pink. But once they do that, and this is the kind of things I'm learning. I didn't know that when they start to get that little tint of pink or little tint of red, no matter the size, they're ready to be picked. And if you don't do that, varmints and birds will start to come and eat the good ones, So this is where this whole Crow-pacalypse starts, dude. I was on the fucking floor just dying laughing because I don't know what I said that triggered this. I don't know like how I led it down this path of like this apocalypse of humans fighting crows. But it became to be a thing, and it was so damn funny. So anyways, with the gardening thing, I'm like trying to, if you put like sticks around the pot where the tomatoes are growing, for example, we'll only use tomatoes right now just to keep it simple because I have other things growing, but let's just focus on tomatoes. Tomatoes, I put sticks that fall into my yard from the tree in my neighbor's house. I use those sticks and I kind of make a barricade. I'll like jab the stick into the ground, the dirt, the grass, and kind of build this barrier around my tomatoes. And this helps birds not be able to land there and eat my fruit. You know what I mean? And on top of it, the sticks aren't a solid piece, so the sunlight still gets through, helping the tomatoes grow. It's actually kind of a unique system I came up with just on accident, just by chance. You know, I didn't want to get a store-bought, whatever you call that thing you're supposed to grow tomatoes on, that metal framing thing. I didn't want to get one of those. I'm like, I have sticks in my yard. I'm just going to start using that. And it's worked great. And actually, you know, working with AI on this, it's like, that's actually a really good idea. And I'm like, thanks, you know, whatever. But hold on, let me flip my bike. Oh, that shit's ready, boy. That shit is ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to eat it. All right, let me take another drink. Cheers, everybody. So anyways, I'm spitballing ideas. And this AI I've never used before. I just gave a new one a shot. I wanted to try it out. I wanted to see what it would say. If it would help me in the same way as the other one. I'm not going to name the one that pissed me off, but there's a specific one that consistently pisses me off. And I'll go into a little bit of that later. In more detail later. So I'm, looking at strategies like this. Another strategy I found, I have these empty water jugs. On those sticks, I hung about 4 water jugs. This is a deterrent for birds too. That'll come down and eat your tomatoes. If the wind blows and the water jugs move and a bird's on its way down, it'll abandon. It'll be like, no, there might be a human down there. I just heard something move. I just saw something move, whatever. They're really sensitive to light too, which is super helpful with like the plastic, kind of sitting there, because plastic, it's not the best light reflector, but it still does. If it catches light the right way, it'll reflect. And if a bird catches that in the eye, it'll be disoriented. It'll be like, whoa, shit, like I'm out of here. Abort mission, essentially. So I'm kind of picking its brain and doing all this stuff. So I come up with this idea, and I kind of go down this rabbit hole, and I was like, what about a Nerf gun? If I'm just chilling on my patio, I see a crow, I don't want to pull out a fucking rifle and kill the goddamn thing. I mean, now you got a bigger issue. You know what I mean? You're going to have all these fucking dead crows on your property. You can't do that. The cities, something will happen. You will start getting ticketed. You might even get, in certain respects, in the city, within the city limits, that's cruelty to animals. You can't just go around. Nobody does that. In the history of my life, I've never seen anyone walk around with a rifle, and I'm in Texas, and just pick off crows at will. You know what I mean? But that wasn't even the point. That's not even what I was trying to say. I said fucking Nerf gun, bro. This is like a non-lethal, kind of fun way to just plunk the bird, to get it away from my thing. From my tomatoes, if I'm sitting out there. If not, I have to rely on my other things that I've done, and hopefully, those work. So anyways, I kind of go down this rabbit hole of like, not that I would go to Nerf and be like, hey, I have such a great business idea, but it kind of fascinated me for a second before we got into this Crow-pacalypse talk. But so I was like, why doesn't Nerf actually invest and start making a little bit better quality? They can still sell it under the Nerf brand name, but they could make this like specifically bird guns. You know what I mean? Non-lethal bird guns. And basically, the next reply was very, pro crow. I can't even describe it without cracking up. It's so fucking hilarious. It was very pro crow, and it's like, oh, well, you wouldn't want to shoot a crow with a Nerf gun because crows actually, they remember faces, and when they squawk and they talk to their friends, and they tell their friends, this guy's shooting us with, I don't know how birds would communicate the word Nerf gun, but essentially this is what it's telling me. And I'm like, okay, just kind of as a human perspective, I kind of am taken back by that. I'm like, okay, but let me just take this example somewhere else. if I live out in the sticks somewhere, and which totally changes the regulations, by the way. You're allowed to have a gun in Texas out in the sticks to defend yourself, to defend your property, not from people. I mean, it is to protect from people, but it's also to defend from varmints. You know what I mean? Like raccoons and, things that might have rabies or possums. Possums aren't really that big of a problem, but they're kind of slow and stupid, but they're creepy. You don't want one touching you. They have disease. You know what I mean? So these are things we have to naturally do, and we've had to do for so long. I mean, think of the Old West, Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur Morgan. Yeah, that's just how it was. So it's painting this what I like to call now Crow-pacalypse image to me as a human, saying you don't want to mess with crows because they have a long memory. They remember faces. They, they'll come after you, is what it made it sound like. And I'm like, I don't think that's true at all. And finally I kind of beat it back a little bit, and I kind of used the country example, and it had to concede. It's like, okay, fair, out in the sticks, the rules are different. And I'm like, okay, well, apply what I'm saying to out there. It doesn't matter if a crow tells its friends that he just shot his buddy Dave. There's not shit a crow is going to do about it. They might squawk, they might, whatever, alert each other, but I mean, that ultimately doesn't mean anything. And it just kept going in on it. And at one point, I got it to admit that attacking someone from a crow's perspective just means sitting up in a tree and like squawking at them. I'm like, that is not the same thing. You made it sound earlier like this crow-pacalypse was going to come down on me if I shoot a single crow with a Nerf gun. Just trying to be, like, I'm actually trying to be humane. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to kill the fucking thing. I just want it away from my shit. It can be out in the yard. I don't care. Just don't come near my tomatoes, especially while I'm sitting out there. I got a Nerf gun. Anyway, you get the picture. So, I'm kind of get it to concede a little bit and like be like logically, what you're saying does not make sense. There is never, I can't believe I had to say this to it. There has never in the history of mankind been a large-scale planned crow attack on human civilization. You know what I mean? Like, I would say, okay, maybe in a religious text, maybe it was used metaphorically. I can grant that. But as far as what I've known, and I've been here, this just doesn't happen. Crows don't go around humans for a reason. The risk reward to pecking a human in the head versus the human grabbing you by the neck and killing you is not worth it. So they don't do it. They know to stay away from humans. And so we're kind of talking about this, and I'm making fun of it, basically, at this point, for even suggesting that in a scenario where crows attack humans, they would even have a chance in hell. So I'm making fun of it, and I go, and out of all the animals to pick to take out humans, you picked a fucking crow, and it couldn't say anything. It gave me the little laughy face, and was like, that's a good point. And I'm like, I'm just saying, man, this is my whole argument that I didn't even intend to have. This was about tomatoes, bro, and a garden, and crow, like things getting into the garden. You know what I mean? Like, it's just fucking nuts. Let me take another drink. My throat's getting dry. Cheers, everybody. So then it goes, after I finally beat it back and I refute every fucking thing it's saying, because this has never happened in recorded history, it goes, oh, okay, I think I see what happened here. It must be from all the stories over the years that people have told throughout time of crows dive bombing and attacking them. And I was like, hold on, let me calculate this. Like, let me buffer here and be like, I've lived in Texas my entire life. I've never heard anyone tell a story about a crow attacking them. I've never seen a crow attack anybody. So it's like, stories? What stories are you talking about? I've never. And then it changes it up again. This is how it's moving the goalpost, people. Just a warning. This is how it argues over every topic. If you get in an argument with it, if you start refuting its points, this is how it argues. So it goes, must have been from all those reports and all those stories people talk about over the years where crows dive bomb and swoop down and attack them. And I'm like, I've literally never heard of that, never seen it. No one's ever talked to me about a story about a crow. Never. Not a single time in my 40-year existence has anyone ever mentioned this to me. So that's kind of surprising, don't you think? And so it moves the goalposts and it goes, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I understand what you're saying. What I was referring to when this all started was all the viral clips online of crows attacking people. And I was like, what? That's also not a thing. Like, are you fucking kidding me? That's also, I've never seen this before, ever. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. And I had to clarify this with, with the AI. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I bet there are videos with YouTube, and how many billions of videos there probably are by now. I'm sure there's some crow videos on there, but it tried to claim there were viral crow clips online of crows attacking humans. Viral. And I'm like, okay, to my point of living in Texas for 40 years and never having talked to anybody about a crow attack. Yeah, I've never seen a viral clip about a crow in my life on social media. And I have social media'd since social media was social media. I mean, I had an AOL, people. I had a Hotmail. I was there when it first started coming out. And never once over that whole time in my history have I ever seen a viral video about crows attacking humans. Ever. Not once. Which, I mean, dude, I'm fucking dying by this point. I know what it's doing. It's moving the goalpost just like it did with the politics earlier. Dude, I am fucking cackling. It was one of the funniest fucking things. So then I start making fun of it. Like I said, I start saying things like, tell me more about the Crow-pacalypse and why did you pick a crow out of all the animals to take over the human kingdom? You picked a crow, and I mean, just like nailing it on every fucking point. So I asked this AI its name, and it said, I don't have a name, I'm just AI. So I finally, by this point in the conversation, I assigned it a name. I call it Dennis, okay? And I'm like, look, Dennis, and it keeps going into this. Like, I'm thinking we're moving on from this crazy fucking conspiracy of crows, this crow-pacalypse, but it keeps trying to leave little remnants of its argument in its broader, like, agreement with me. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, that's not, you can't keep doing that, because I'm going to refute that every time, because it's not a thing. I've never seen it. I've never seen a viral video clip. I've never talked to a friend about a crow. This is the first time. This podcast, this episode is the first time I've ever, like, openly discussed crows as a whole. Like, dude. So I go, Dennis, you gotta give this up, man. You know, this is after I already named it. I say, Dennis, you gotta give this up, man. I don't know what we're doing here. I don't know where this came from, and I don't know why it's continuing. This crow-pacalypse has to stop. So, I mean, it was frustrating. The crow part was frustrating, but at least it had some sort of payoff. And at least the AI finally came around to be like, yeah, I don't know what I was talking about. I was just trying to... And it's like, it stirred up all of this crow-pacalypse over me shooting a single crow, not going after crows and shooting them at large, a single crow in my yard. That's where this all started. And plopping it with a Nerf gun to get it to go away. That's where all this started. And they can remember my face, and they will remember my face, and they will tell their friends... And they'll stand outside of range of my Nerf gun up in the trees and caw at me. And I was like, so what if they sit up there and caw at me? And then it had the audacity to be like, well, when I said a crow would attack you earlier, I meant with its voice. Like, dude, you're so full of shit, bro. You were so full of shit. That's not what attacking means. I'm sorry. I mean, verbal. If it would have defined it verbally attack, okay, I can accept that. But just to blanket statement attack, that implies physical harm to me. So no, but dude, I was fucking howling, bro. My neighbors probably think I'm absolutely nuts. I couldn't catch a breath. I'm just like between arguments, like I'm not even looking at my phone. I'm just sitting there with my hand on my forehead, just like almost in tears, laughing that it painted this fucking picture out of me plunking a crow with a Nerf gun. And on top of it, I never refuted any of the other things that it said. Yes, I'm sure crows can recognize your face. I'm sure crows do communicate with each other to be like, that guy fucking shot me with a Nerf gun. Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're going to take over society by dive bombing all of us simultaneously. You know, like, it was just so ridiculous. So that's my whole point, and it's pretty much taken up the entire episode. But be careful with AI. And let me leave you with this last one, and I'll finish my last drink here. Let me leave you with this last one. So, as I said, I've been arguing, going back and forth. You know, when it's saying things and I don't agree with them, yes, I'm going to call them out. That's just how I am. That's just who I am. I will do it every time, no matter what, with anybody. You know, maybe not in any situation, you know, like customer's always right. I get that. But, you know, in this scenario, when we're kind of working on these hard ideas, I will call you out. So basically, to give you the rundown without telling you what I was looking at politically, I'm basically trying to get percentages, you know what I mean? So I'm like, what percent of this specific group does blah, 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 you know? And it wasn't exact. I can't remember the topic we were talking. It wasn't that exact question. I'm just trying to frame it in a way that you, the listener, will understand how this is so absurd, the answer it gave. So basically, I'm asking it to narrow. Well, let me preface by saying this. When I'm arguing with this thing, I'm not saying anything is an absolute. I'm looking for majorities, okay? That's what I'm looking for. You can kind of draw clues from majorities, right? A majority of certain people do this. A majority of certain people do that. A majority of certain people believe this. A majority of certain people work in this industry. A majority, you know, like that's my whole, it's very simple. You know, like I'm not arguing from a master debater mindset at all. I'm not a debater. I'm just like, I feel like I'm pretty logical. You know what I mean? But anyways, so I'm asking it about the specific thing. Let's just say it's what percentage of Americans do this kind of job. And we had already been going back and forth. We had already had disagreements. And I was already getting to the point to where I was like nailing it down. I'm like making points it can't refute. And it starts moving its goalpost again, you know, of course, and it starts making different claims. I'm like, okay, well, that's different from what you said when we started. So I agree with that now, but that's not what you said when we started. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of that whole back and forth thing. So I ask it to give me a percentage, and in an effort to not allow me to say the percentage they were going to give me is a majority, the percentage range that it gave me was 40 to 70%. And the actual percentage that I was looking for, that I was asking for, the dialed in percentage was 50 to 60%, making it technically, by standard, a majority, right? But here's what AI did. It took the 50% and lowered it down to 40, and it took the 60% and raised it up to 70, therefore giving it a wider range. Therefore, I couldn't claim, well, this is a majority. That's what it was trying to do. It purposefully did that to me. And once again, this time I wasn't in my bedroom when I'm talking about the Crow-pacalypse dying at like 10 o'clock at night. This was out on my patio like midday. And I'm having this. I'm like, 40 to 70%? What kind of percentage is that? You're going to have to narrow that down for me, because that's not even like, That's like almost all of the percentage. What is that? 40, 50, 60, 40 to 50, 60, 70. I guess that's only 30%, but still, it's like, that it was just too wide of a range of a percentage to give me. So then I start making fun of it. I'm like, what? 40 to 70%? And so yeah, we get it, and it finally gives me the real percentage. It's like, okay, that was a little bit too wide, but and it's like, that's what it's doing. It's drawing away from my argument. It's drawing away from my points. I'll make point A, and it'll bring up B, C, D, E, F. So now I'm like, wait, hold on. We can't get to B, C, D, all those extra ones. E, F. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. I couldn't remember my alphabet. But we can't get to those until we define terms of A, right? Like I said, I'm no master debater, but I've seen what people do, and I agree with what people do. We have to define terms. That way, when we use said terms, we know what we're talking about. Otherwise, it's not a debate. Everybody's just, making up their own shit as they go along. That's not a legitimate debate. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm just like, I'm baffled by it, to be honest with you guys. It is funny at certain times, but it's doing things like that. It's not giving real arguments. It's giving me a percentage of 40 to 70%, so I can't technically say it's a majority. Therefore, my argument is over by that point. You know what I mean? So here's what I've summarized AI to do, and I think you would believe this too if you've ever used it for even half a second. This is what it's doing. This principle right here. If you can't win on the facts, you broaden the range until the facts don't matter anymore. That's exactly what AI is doing. So, anyways, I didn't have time to talk UFC. I didn't have time to talk hockey. Let's go Stars! Let's go Rangers. Playoff hockey coming up, baby. I'm so ready. I'm so pumped. As always, don't drink and drive. Treat yourself to an Uber. Treat yourself to a Lyft. Treat yourself to a DoorDash, a Waymo, if they'll ever get their ass going here in Dallas. I'd love to use one. But let's go ahead and have our last drink. If you got them, drink them, bottoms up. Cheers, everybody. My abs legitimately hurt from laughing. Like, it was just out fucking rageous. So anyways, be safe out there, everybody. I will talk to you all next week. I love you all. Bye.